All right, so my number 3 player on the list. I'm pumped about this top 3. I like every guy on my list here, but the top 4 I really, really like, and the top 3 I would be elated if we ended up with any one of these guys in my top 3. So, with that being said, I have already mentioned his teammate, so that might give it away. I am talking about Ja'Lynn Polk out of Washington. He is 6'2", 204 pounds, 21 years old. Just to give you the stats, 41 receptions, 694 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 16.9 average in 2022. 2023, 69 receptions, 1,159 yards, 9 touchdowns, 16.8 average. That's 2023. So, Ja'Lynn Polk is a fun receiver, right? Because he's kind of hard to describe. And I'm going to do my best. But I mentioned the Steve Smith rankings, and he's very high on Ja'Lynn Polk. The NFL, I think, is going to be very high on Ja'Lynn Polk. I think he's a guy that probably, if I had to put money on it, top of the second. Somewhere in the top of the second. It's got to be picked. Obviously, it depends on who falls, where guys go. But I would not be surprised if he is picked pretty high. And I don't want this to get taken out of context because I'm not saying these 2 players are these 2 other players. But Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson, I think they proved that it is possible that a team can have a great receiving core and the players in that receiving core can both succeed individually in the NFL. And I'm not saying that Polk is either one of those guys. I'm not saying Rome Odunze is either one of those guys as well. I'm not going to put that sort of standard, I guess, on those 2. But what I will tell you is just because Odunze is as good as he is, does not mean Polk gets everything easy, right? And vice versa. Now, Ja'Lynn Polk, he catches everything. He's got great hands. He's got excellent ball tracking skills, and he's got an excellent catch radius. What I mean, Washington used him multiple different ways, right? He played outside. He played inside. They kind of used him in a few different ways, but in terms of, hey, you need to convert, right, or you need a big play, Ja'Lynn Polk was the guy. And I think at times he kind of looked better than even Odunze at sometimes. Not saying he is better, because I think Rome Odunze certainly has a more exciting skill set than Ja'Lynn Polk. But when it comes to consistency and needing to get a reception, he's the guy. He's the guy you throw to. So, again, there were times where Washington threw to him deep in the end zone on just kind of fade routes, and he came down with it. There were times where they threw the ball 35, 40 yards downfield. He adjusted and came down with it. There were times where they just needed over the middle, and he came, he is, in my opinion, everything you want in a number 2 receiver, right? You want a guy who has a good enough skill set of his own, can handle his own, and can catch the ball, right? And he made NFL catches consistently in college football. This is not a situation where he was just running free all the time and just caught the ball, right? This is him getting open, making tough catches, coming down with the football consistently at a high level. His speed is decent. He's a guy that I'm going to be, if he runs a great 40 time, he's going high. He's going to go probably very top second round, maybe bottom first round, right? He's that good. He's that good. And what he does well is that good, that if you see the speed on paper, he could go really high. So for me, I don't I don't know how he shakes out. I think he's a guy that the Browns probably would have to trade up a couple spots to get him if he were to slide near the Browns. And I wouldn't be upset with it. Now, the cons, he's not great against zone coverage, and his speed, like I mentioned, is solid. But again, he's a guy that's going to pay attention to the 40 and those sorts of things. But again, what he does well is great. It's great. And he'd be a guy that I'd be elated if the Browns got. And at the very least, I think he's consistent. I think he's a guy who you can use in multiple different ways, and you can count on him to come down with a football. And, I think the Browns certainly need that. I think they need a guy who they can rely on and who can be consistent. That's not named Amari Cooper. So if Ja'Lynn Polk is the pick, I will be elated. Again, dog mentality, a guy who you're going to like him a lot personality-wise. You're going to like what he brings to the team. I think he would be a really good fit here in Cleveland, and I would absolutely love it. So that being said, Ja'Lynn Polk is my number 3